Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Aero Veloce, and today I'm going to try to solve two problems with one product. Problem number one, you want to mount an aftermarket quick release to a Simucube, but like me, you think mounting a quick release onto a quick release looks absolutely silly. Problem number two, you want to extend the length of your shaft? It's okay, I won't tell anyone, I promise. Well, in my opinion, the best way to solve both of these problems is with the Simcore UH1. I'm not affiliated with Simcore in any way. This is just a solution I came up for myself, and I do think it's the best and cleanest solution. But let's find out why that is. The Simcore UH1 is a hub extension that completely replaces the hub on the Simucube or even VRS or Midge type wheelbases. There are three different sizes to the UH1. There's the 55mm, the 75mm, and the 105mm. The naming of these hubs correlates to how much they extend over the default Simucube hub. The actual size of each hub is 100mm for the 55, 125mm for the 75, and 150mm for the 105. The pricing for the Simcore UH1 hub extensions comes in at $98 for the 55, $118 for the 75, and $138 for the 105. The hub extensions come in an anodized black, but if you do want a different color, the 105 is the only one that has the option to get different anodized colors at an additional $10. And if you want to put one of these extension hubs on a VRS or Midge type wheelbase, then that will be an additional $20 for the drive lock to make it work. Now, why is this a better solution for mounting aftermarket quick releases onto a Simucube? Like I said earlier, it's basically because it replaces the stock Simucube hub. The stock Simucube hub doesn't have a 70mm bolt pattern on it, while the UH1 does. And most aftermarket quick releases need that 70mm bolt pattern to be mounted. So without buying any additional pieces or adapters, the only way to mount a aftermarket quick release on a stock Simucube is to mount it on top of the Simucube's original quick release. So to me, this just looks absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you're running a quick release on a quick release. It's also more weight, so you have more weight on the rotational mass, which is incredibly important for the force feedback to keep that weight as low as possible. And it also makes the shaft really, really long, which is a problem for my setup because it would compromise a lot of my FOV. Since my wheelbase sits in front of my screens because I'm using larger 48-inch screens, having a super long shaft running double quick releases would put me farther away from the screens, thus losing out the FOV that I can run. Now, the advantage of the Simcore UH1 is that I could completely remove this stock Simucube whole hub assembly and just have one piece and mount the aftermarket quick release directly to it, but also having the advantage of choosing how long I want the shaft to be. So in my case, I use the smallest size, the 55, and that way I can keep the perfect FOV that I had before. Running the UH1 hub extension is also lighter weight than running the stock Simucube quick release, double quick release setup. So I believe it's about 300 grams that you save, which every bit counts when you're trying to get that best force feedback feeling. Now, there is another way you can mount aftermarket quick releases without using the Simucube quick release on top, and that's with adapter plates. A popular solution I see a lot of people running is the stock Simucube hub to an adapter plate, to an aftermarket quick release, and then to another hub extension, and then to the wheel. This isn't necessarily a bad solution, but there's a couple reasons I'm not really a fan of it. If you're running a hub extension from the quick release to the wheel, that means you need one of those hub extensions for every wheel that you own if you want to keep them all at the same distance, which can get very pricey very quickly. Although now that I think about it, why don't they just put the hub extension mounted to the adapter plate and then to the quick release instead of on the wheel side? Then you would only need one. I don't know. This is just what I see people running. Doesn't make sense to me. Anyways, anytime you have to use adapters, it kind of feels like an afterthought to me. I prefer much cleaner solutions that kind of just replace the whole need for an adapter with much less parts needed. Let's compare this adapter scenario. These are all GSI parts, which are all beautifully CNC machined, and it does still look pretty cool. Every part by itself is an awesome looking piece, but altogether it kind of looks a little convoluted to me. So like I said earlier, I just prefer a simpler and cleaner solution. We've got Simucube hub to an adapter, to a quick release, to a 50mm extension hub, to the wheel. So let's compare this to my Simcore solution using the UH1 55mm. There's the UH1 55mm hub extension, the quick release, and then the wheel. That's it. So we're cutting the parts in half, basically. If you're looking at that little hub on the back of the Cube Controls wheel, that's a part of the wheel itself, so I don't want to see any comments talking smack saying I'm still using an extension hub. That is technically the back of the wheel. But I planned this whole setup around the GSI Hyper P1 I'll be getting that doesn't have any integrated hub into the back of the wheel, so I'll get a little bit closer distance, which was the perfect amount I was looking for to keep the FOV that I have. But back to comparing the two different setups, because I'm using the UH1 55mm, I do have that extra 55mm over the stock hub, so that is like having that 50mm extension the other setup has, but built in. So I'm basically getting the same exact length as the adapter setup, which is also what I was shooting for. I do think that extra 55mm is good to have for just a little bit more cable relief for wired wheels. Now let's say you didn't care about changing the quick release and you only wanted to extend the shaft. In my opinion, the Simcore UH1 is still the cleanest way to do it because of it just being one piece. Reasons that you might want to actually extend your shaft is you could get your wheel farther away from your wheelbase, which it means you're also farther away from the uprights of your rig, which just makes getting in and out of your rig a little bit easier because you have more leg room. Or you can use it to get the perfect monitor position if you're, say, using like a 32-inch or 27-inch triple screens or something like that. You have more room in between the wheel and the wheelbase to get the monitor really low and in between and just get that perfect position. Keep in mind, if you are using extended shaft, you can put more strain on the motor and the bearings, so try not to put any lateral load on the wheel itself, like don't use it for leverage to get in and out of your rig. Simucube doesn't recommend extending the shaft over 100mm on top of the stock hub setup. So if you're going to run the Simcore UH1 105mm, that basically puts you at that limit, so you don't really want to extend more than that. And like I said earlier, I chose the 55mm just because I wanted a little bit more space, but not too much because of my FOV situation. But that's pretty much it. It's a simple product, but when it comes down to the little details, I think it makes a big difference. And I love optimizing every little detail about my sim rig. I hope this helps you dial in your setup and potentially save you money if you're planning on buying an extension hub for each individual wheel you own. I'll leave a link to Simcore's website down below, but like I said earlier, I'm not affiliated in any way. If you do decide to run this setup or any other setup, let me know what quick release you're running. I just got the Simlab one and I really like it, but Micro Center does not seem to be restocking the 70mm hubs, and I need more of those, so that's kind of a bummer, and I might need to change out the quick release. And if you have any other questions, of course, you could leave those in the comments down below as well. Also, feel free to join my Discord and share pictures of your setup too. Always like bouncing ideas off each other when it comes to dialing in our sim racing setups. And lastly, all my social media links are down below if you want to follow me on any of the other platforms. But with that, I'm out. Peace.